There is a lot going on in the world, and this is another classic example of big money. You've got these companies that manufacture drugs that actually do, addictive drugs that actually kill people, these opiate drugs, supporting members of Congress who are opposing marijuana. And the guy who knows more about that than anyone on earth is Mike Papantonio, America's lawyer and host of Ring of Fire Radio, ringofireradio.com. Pap, welcome back.
Tom, how are you?
I am great. I hope you are well.
Everything's great on this end.
So you've got a marvelous piece over at Alternet. I strongly suggest people get over to alternet.org and read this. It's titled, "Where's the Public Outrage About Big Money in Politics?" You want to encapsulate that for us, and maybe you can answer that question. Where is the public outrage?
Well, first of all, we have to understand a little bit of the history. You know, you had great thinkers, people like yourself, Tom, Howard Zinn, Chalmers Johnson, Studs Terkel, that told us that that what we had to be aware of was money in the catastrophe of money in politics, but we had to be aware of it for another reason. They used to talk, if you remember, about colonialism, how we would go to third world countries and colonize. But by the end of their discussion, they were always talking about the idea that the colonialism also takes place by this new entity called the multinational corporation, and it's happening right here in the United States. They said in order for it to happen, the most important component in America being colonized, not by another country, you understand, but by these new things called multi-conglomerate corporations, is money. That was the most important. That was the most important element to extract from us. If they wanted to extract from our labor resources and pay pathetically low wages, their way to do that was to spread around enough money to bust unions, not just at a national level, but also in state and local level, right down to the counties. Right. They said if you want to extract from our natural resources through fracking and drilling and mining, then what you have to do, this new multinational corporation, the way they'll do that is they'll spread around money to the right regulators or the right local politicians. Most of that money would need to be pumped into this existing political system, since it's unlikely that a multinational corporation is going to march over here with an army. The multinational corporation doesn't even have a flag, much less a country or an army. So they're this ubiquitous thing that moves from place to place in the world, and the way that they're coming to America is by spreading around this big money. And they knew in order to do that, they had to have people that were already here that would be their proponents. They had to have the Coors family in the Richard Mellon Scaife family, and they had to have the Koch brothers that had high political profiles that could make this happen. They could spread around money in the right way. And so this colonization that's taken place in America it's very different from what we used to do to a third world country, but it's happening nonetheless. It's happening not just nationally, Tom, it's happening state by state, very methodically. And before you know it, we look around and we find out that we don't really have any rights where it comes to voting anymore. They've all been bought up. Yeah. But this has been in the works for a long time, and it's not just my theory, and it's not. This is something that was talked about early on by people like Chalmers Johnson and Howard Zinn, how we would be colonized without ever a shot being fired.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and many are continuing that tradition. And in fact, you know, a couple of quick examples. GE makes most of their money outside the United States. They do most of their business outside the United States. They typically don't pay U.S. taxes, and yet they're an American corporation that up until last year was the owner of one of the big three networks, and you know, kind of had their way here. You've got Walgreens. I don't know if you saw Robert Reich's blog. Walgreens is being acquired by Boots, a British company. But you know, they're going to continue to do business in the United States. They just won't pay taxes here anymore. They'll pay them in the UK with a lower tax rate. And I'm sure that they'll continue to lobby here.
Well, doesn't that fit in exactly with what we're talking about here? These are just corporations that have looked at what's going on in other parts of the world, where you may have a corporation, a multi-conglomerate they're housed in France, but they move all over the world. They don't have any allegiance to France. They don't fly the French flag. Right. So now we're seeing the reverse of that. We're seeing the American corporation that says, hey, I want to go to Switzerland. That's where Walgreens wants to go. So the real analysis comes down to this. If they're no longer an American citizen, if they're not a citizen anymore, why should we let them participate in the political agenda at all? Why should they be able to give any money into political schemes.
Well, and if Shelley Adelson is making most of his money in China, running casinos in Macau, how can he be giving that money to Newt Gingrich?
Well, that's exactly right, and it's more involved than that. Why do we allow government contracts to be paid to Walgreens now that they're going to be a Swiss company? Why do we allow them to be paid money through Medicaid and Medicare? Why do we allow any kind of government contracts to these countries that say, look, we're no longer an American company. We've joined the ranks of multi-conglomerates. We're in the extraction business as well. So here you have you have this company that they use our military, they use our police, they use our roads, and they use our streets, bridges. They use all of our infrastructure, but they pay no taxes, and so that passes on to us. It's somewhere. I think Robert wrote that it was somewhere around $2 trillion that we lose out of this scheme, where these corporations that say, yeah, we want to live here, we want to be a member of the country club, we love the nice roads, we love the theater, we love the culture, we love all the nice things, but we don't want to pay taxes here, and we want to extract as much as we can from you in that process. So this process of, first of all, you have to really abandon this concept of thinking about this in terms of countries. There really is globalization that really removes that analysis. It's a fiction, really. It becomes a fiction. These entities, these new multi-conglomerates, these multinational conglomerates, they don't have a place that they live. And most importantly, Tom, the people that these multi-conglomerates rely on, these multinational conglomerates, people they rely on are these people like the Koch brothers who step by step are deregulating. Step by step are busting up the unions. Step by step are putting money into politics. And so when Chalmers Johnson and Zen and any of these brilliant intellectuals were talking about this, they said this is where it's going to end. We'll be colonized. There won't be an invasion. Nobody's going to show up with a ship. We won't even know who the hell they are. All we'll know is that this dark money is creating this entity, this new entity. It's expanding this new entity called the multinational corporation, and because of that, we have cheap labor, where they extract all of our natural resources and leave a mess in the process.
Yeah, and back in 1935, FDR got passed something called the Buy America Act, which is still on the books, which says that the government has to first source anything that they buy, and they're 20% of our GDP, anything that they buy from an American company. Reagan started issuing waivers to that, like there was no tomorrow, and every president since then has. But still, the government is supposed to buy American first. But if this new free trade deal with the Southern Hemisphere, Asian Pacific countries, I call it the Southern Hemisphere Asian Free Trade Agreement, SHAFTA, S-H-A-F-T-A. The president calls it TPP. If this thing passes, then it explicitly says the Buy American Act is illegal.
Well, if you remember, the Chamber of Commerce, they wanted that in there. The Chamber of Commerce, if you remember, since I think it's $65 million, trying to defeat an effort that was being proposed by the American labor unions, and that was Buy America. You remember their big campaign, Buy America.
Right.
Well, you had the U.S. Chamber of Commerce come in and spend millions of dollars to try to defeat that effort, because there is no more Buy America. They think in terms of a globe now.
Yeah, it was a legislative effort to basically stop the executive branch from issuing waivers.
Right.
Amazing stuff. Mike Papantonio, the attorney, America's lawyer. Mike Papantonio, host of Ring of Fire Radio, ringofireradio.com. Pap, thanks.
Thank you, Tom.